What is science? Have you ever looked at the definition of the term? Science is a topic or a subject in school. It's a category of the news media. It's a major in college. Science is all around us. We probably hear the word science every single day, if not multiple times throughout the day. Men like Richard Dawkins and Bill Nye and Neil deGrasse Tyson, they extol science as a god. Okay, oh, science is so wonderful to them. Look at all the technologies and we have because of science. Look what we have done because of science. But in truth, they willfully intermingle science with pseudoscience to promote an agenda. You know, as two teams comply to one rule book for a fair game, so a discussion between two opposing viewpoints, it gives some credence to the discussion when they comply to a proper definition of terms. Often people overlook the idea that you need to define the term. One needs to establish the meaning of words for a proper starting point. The man who manipulates or stretches the rules or the terms rigs the game or the argument. A very simple rule in life is a text without a context is a pretext. It's a pretense. So I want to develop a starting point from the word science. What is science? And I've taken 5 different definitions that I've found online. I don't want to limit it to one because some might say, well, you're just choosing the definition you like. And so here are the 5 definitions that I found online, and you'll see that they are pretty similar. The first one is science is the systematic knowledge of the physical and material world gained through observation and experimentation. Now, what I've done is I've highlighted 2 words that are akin in all 5 definitions. The word observation. On number 2, you can see it's watching, but that's observation and experiments. Okay, those are common traits in each of these. And then in number 4, empirical evidence is another mention there I like to mention. But very simplistically, science is gaining knowledge of the physical world through observation and experimentation. There's nothing difficult about that. So, how do you observe things? Okay, how would we observe something? Observation, you observe through your 5 senses: sight, taste, touch, smell, and hear. And you get knowledge of the physical world through observing your 5 senses: sight, taste, touch, smell, hear. Okay, and then you develop an experiment and you observe the results. Okay, if it is not observed firsthand, you cannot honestly say that you gained that knowledge through science. Okay, in the law, if an event is not observed firsthand, if it is not firsthand knowledge, if you are not an eyewitness, then it's not evidence. In the law, if it's secondhand or third-hand knowledge, it is called hearsay. Okay, so secondhand science is hearsay, and it can be riddled with pseudoscience, fake science. Okay, for example, if you're reading a science or a history textbook, okay, what you're reading is science or history secondhand or even thirdhand. Okay, the authors or the editors of the books are developing their opinions through the record that they're giving you. A history book contains the opinions of the authors and editors of historical events. The editors can deify or demonize any character in history by how they write the history book. History revisionists purposefully and maliciously desire to mold opinions by a dishonest revision of history. Okay, a science book is riddled with the speculations of the authors or editors. Okay, in the science book, there may be an example of science or an experiment, but if you don't personally conduct the experiment, then you're taking the experiences of another person. It could be fake science. It could be real science. The news industry, they mold opinions through their prejudice and subjective reporting. Only liberals and the socialists can tamper with hearsay and present it as evidence in a trial of impeachment. Okay, a person can utilize his sixth sense in your conscience and the seventh sense in the Bible for direction, but people who are afflicted with bibliophobia reject that last option. Okay, I see that a person who will not consider an opposing idea lacks confidence in their own. An athlete who refuses to play an opponent is demonstrating that they lack confidence in their own abilities. People like Reverend Richard Dawkins and Bishop Bill Nye and Pope Neil deGrasse Tyson and their comrades, they maliciously separate science from the Bible because they worship their intellect and pseudoscience. I'm here to tell you that science and the Bible are compatible. Pseudoscience and the Bible are not compatible. There is one Bible in the Christian bookstore that is compatible with science and the word experiments. In fact, there's only one Bible in the Christian bookstore that uses the word science and the word experiment. The word experiment in the pure Bible is only found once. It's found in 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 13. And I've just used three well-known translations that remove the word experiment and replace it with service, proof, and proof. Okay, now the word science is found 2 times in a true holy Bible, but I want to show you what other Bibles do with it. Okay, in Daniel chapter 1, verse 4, is the first occurrence of science, and this is a science, when we keep it within our definitions that I've given, the 5 definitions, it's knowledge that you gain by observation, experimentation. That is compatible with the Bible. In Daniel 1:4, if you know the story of Daniel and his 3 buddies, they were the royal seed in Judah, and the Babylonian or the Iraqi army came in with 3 military campaigns. And on the first one, they took Daniel and his buddies and hundreds of people back to Iraq to try to brainwash them or to get them into the Babylonian culture. And in Daniel 1:4 makes this comment about Daniel and his 3 friends. It says, children in whom was no blemish, but well-favored and skillful in all wisdom and cunning in knowledge and understanding science. Okay, so understanding science. They gained knowledge of the physical and material world through observation and experimentation. Okay, and the 3 newer translations, you'll see that they remove the word science. The NIV, New American Standard, the New King Jimmy, they remove the word science. Now, the other occurrence of the word science is found in the New Testament in 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 20. And it's a warning that Paul gives to Timothy. It's a young man that he had won to Christ, and then he eventually became a pastor or a teacher of the Bible. And in 1 Timothy 6, verse 20, it says, O Timothy, keep that which is committed to thy trust, avoiding profane and vain babblings and oppositions of science. But notice, science falsely so called. Not oppositions of science. Oppositions of something called science that should not be called science. Falsely so called. Pseudoscience. Fake science. A counterfeit science. So he is telling Timothy, watch out for this science. Now, in the next verse of 1 Timothy 6, verse 21, it says this, which some professing have erred concerning the faith. Okay, they've made errors about the faith because they were deceived by science falsely so called. Not science, but science falsely called. Pseudoscience. They didn't discern the difference between science and pseudoscience. Okay, now the new Bibles here, 3 of the newer Bibles, remove the word science. Okay, and then they change it like the NIV, what is falsely called knowledge. No, it's falsely called science. Okay, how did they gain that knowledge? If they gained that knowledge through observation, experimentation, then it's rightly called science. Okay, the New American Standard repeats what the NIV, what is falsely called knowledge. And the New King Jimmy that supposedly took out the these and thous, well, they also took out science. All 3 of them agree in their disagreement with the pure Bible of science falsely so called. If the knowledge is gained through secondhand knowledge, then it is pseudoscience. It's fake science. Okay, now what helps a person is that you understand that true science, knowledge that you gain by observation, experimentation, is compatible with the Bible. Discretion will aid a person to discern the subtle differences between science and science falsely so called, pseudoscience. If you with attentiveness listen to Richard Dawkins and Bill Nye and Neil deGrasse Tyson, you will discern where they sway from science to extol pseudoscience in order to promote an agenda. Proverbs chapter 2, verse 10 says, when wisdom entereth into thine heart, and knowledge is pleasant unto thy soul, discretion shall preserve thee, understanding shall keep thee. Okay, so knowledge here that is gained through observation is science, and discretion will aid you to discern science from pseudoscience. Okay, I want to give you an example. Scientists or men who claim the title of scientists, Richard Dawkins, Bill Nye, okay, Tyson, okay, and the science textbooks, they teach that the sun is speeding through space at 483,000 miles per hour, dragging the planets with it by gravity. And the planets, the Earth in particular, is spinning at 1,000 miles per hour, and it is speeding around the sun at 66,600 miles per hour. So they're saying that the Earth, which is what I'm on, the Earth is speeding, spinning, and spiraling. And my question is, are they right or wrong? Okay, some maybe will roll their eyes at this moment and say, how stupid can you be? Of course they're right. Well, If you accept that knowledge without science, what science? You personally observing it by one of your five senses or two or three of your five senses. If you personally have observed that, then you could call it science. But if you have not observed that, then it is a belief or faith in what somebody else says. If you gain that knowledge through observation, experimentation, okay, then it is science. Now, personally for me, I have not observed it through sight, hearing, or touch. I don't think taste or smell has a bearing in this observation. Okay, for example, do you feel it? Do you feel it? Do you feel the earth spinning at 1,000 miles an hour? Do you feel that? You might say, well, I don't feel the car traveling when I'm going down the road, speeding down the road. You're right. Often you don't. You feel, the beginning acceleration, and you feel when the brakes are put on. Okay, but once you get to your speed, you don't really feel the speed. But they're saying the scientists are saying three different motions: speeding, spinning, and spiraling. That's what they're saying. So let's add a second motion if you're in the car speeding at 50 miles an hour. And let's add a spiral in there where the car starts going in this fashion. Will you feel it? I'm sure you will. Now, personally, I don't want to experiment that one. Or if the car starts spiraling and rolling, you're definitely going to feel the second and especially the third motion. Okay, do you feel the spinning, speeding, and spiraling of the earth right now? I don't. Do you hear the sound of the ether or atmosphere as the earth is spinning at 1,000 miles an hour? I mean, you could roll the window down of the car and put your hand out and feel the wind. So if you get outside of a building, do you feel that you're spinning the wind at 1,000? Well, if you're at the equator, I'm not. So say 700 miles an hour. I've never felt the wind. In fact, there's some days I see there's absolutely no wind. Have I seen an eyewitness account of the sun speeding at 483,000 miles an hour, dragging the planets by gravity, and the earth is speeding, spinning, and have I witnessed that? No, I have not. Okay, so if I believe that, if you believe that, you don't believe it by science. You believe it by a belief of faith. You're taking somebody else's opinion about it, secondhand. Now, a person might say, well, we've had NASA and we've had men go to the moon. Okay, well, let's do a very quick experiment here. So I have a glass with water in it, and I'm going to take a pencil, as you see the pencil, and I'm going to put the pencil in the water, in the glass. Do you see that from this experiment that the pencil is distorted? No, the pencil's not distorted. Your viewpoint of the pencil's been distorted because you see the pencil's not distorted. So from this experiment, I can conclude that either the glass or the water is distorting the picture of the viewpoint of the pencil. I can put the pencil this way, and you can see, okay, the pencil looks larger in the water, but when I pull it out, it's not. So from this observation, the knowledge I gain from this, that either the glass or the water distorts the viewpoint of the pencil, or a combination of both. Now, I bring that up with taking it back to NASA. Since 1969, we are told that Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin and the other guy traveled to the moon, and then there were 5 other missions traveling to the moon under the administration of honest Richard Nixon. But of the 6 times that they traveled to the moon and back, not one time did somebody remember to take a camera and snap a photo. Why didn't? I mean, have you ever traveled at a far distance place and forgot to bring your camera? Maybe you did the first time, but the next time you're going to make sure, let's bring a camera. But they went 6 times and not once did they snap a photo. Not once. I find that a little suspicious myself. Now, a person might say, well, NASA has pictures of the Earth. No, they don't. Many employees have admitted what they have is CGI, computer-generated images portraying the Earth. And some of their images don't even match. Why didn't somebody take a picture when they're on their way back? I mean, they had a long time that they could have snapped so many photos on the way back. A person might say, well, I've seen in planes and satellite images where I can see the curve of the Earth and everything. Did you take the picture? Did the camera have a fisheye lens that distorted the view? I've seen pictures or videos of the curvature, the concave or convex. I've seen it where it would go back and forth. The horizon would be concave and then convex within seconds. And that evidence tells me that glass or the humidity or the liquid or the vapor above the water, if you're looking at the horizon, distorts your visual view of it. That's what science is. Okay, so I'm here to tell you, pure science, knowledge that you gain from observation and experimentation, is compatible with the Bible. Pseudoscience, fake science, is a belief, opinion, or religion. It acts like a religion. So the pure scriptures and pure science allow a person, a sincere student, to study and gain knowledge until death.